Now let's talk about learning disorders, which tend to be relatively common as far as disorders are concerned. Learning disorders are those individuals, or those children I should say, who everything in their life is normal, but they are below average in certain areas, and those are usually the reading disorders, which are the most common, also the math disorders where they can't add or subtract, or the writing disorders. So these are children that every other aspect of their lives is normal or up to the level of the other children, except in one of those three basic differences or all of them at the same time. So as you can imagine, where would you expect these children to be first diagnosed would be in the school setting. Now there's numerous reasons why children would have learning disabilities, whether it's cerebral palsy or any kind of mental retardation like fetal alcohol syndrome, but in reality the majority of them, we truly do not know what causes them. It is much more common than mental retardation. It occurs at about 5% of school-age children, usually diagnosed in elementary school. Like I said earlier, that's where children learn to read, learn to write, and of course, learn to add and subtract. Because these children are having problems in school, because they can't do the things that their counterparts can do, what happens? Their self-esteem is affected, they have problems with impulsivity, problems with conduct, problems with behavioral disturbances. So you'll see that these are children that are going to have problems in all of their lives. And if they get older, if they're working, you would expect them to have problems at work as well because of their inability to do certain things. They're going to be failing school because they're not getting the grades that their other children are getting in the classroom because they can't read or they can't write. So what's essential for these kids is to recognize them early on in the school system. Identify them as learning disabled children, because once you do that, you can separate them from the normal classroom. Put them in special education classes, and the purpose of these classes is where they will spend more time learning how to read, learning how to write, learning how to add or subtract than any other classrooms in the school. In these classrooms, you're going to have a different student to teacher ratio. So in these classrooms, there's going to be less students, where the teacher will be able to devote more time to the students to help them focus on the areas that they have deficits in. Not only does the school system have to be involved, but the family also has to be involved. And at times, the family might need counseling. Because what happens in a lot of situations is that you've got parents that are not understanding of the children's learning deficits. So if they ridicule the child, call the child names, what do you think will happen to that child's self-esteem? It's also going to worsen. So you need to make sure that the family is involved in decision making. Maybe family therapy might be recommended. Maybe individual therapy might be recommended for the child. But the treatment of choice will always be, of course, special education, and that's going to occur in the school setting. The differential diagnoses will be basic mental retardation, maybe a child who has a hearing or vision problem, or again, environmental deprivation.